Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the war in Iran appears to be taking a toll on American service members. The alarming reports of sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln attempting to jump overboard during a record-breaking deployment at sea. Concerns continuing to grow about mental health and living conditions aboard the aircraft carrier that's been deployed for more than 250 days. The state of emergency in the Midwest, historic flooding and life-threatening conditions. The new severe storm alerts from Iowa to Indiana and all the way to the east. Nearly half of all customers in northwest Indiana remain without power for the third day in a row.
I'm Alex Perez in the small town of Cambridge City, Indiana, that was inundated by floodwaters and is now bracing for more rain. I'll have the latest.
And the major developments in the federal case against alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Sources telling ABC News he could change his plea to guilty as early as tomorrow, his state trial just weeks away. The dramatic turn in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial, the mother accused of strangling her 3 young children, breaking down in court. The defense claims she suffered from severe postpartum psychosis. The siege in the West Bank, Israeli settlers surrounding 2 Palestinian homes in an area Israel should be providing security for. We talked to a man whose family is trapped, their water and electricity cut, with no safe way out.
It is a terrifying moment for my brother and his son. They were alone in the house. They could not sleep all night. They have to stay awake.
A baby born to a surrogate just yesterday is at the center of a fierce legal battle. The parents wanted to terminate the pregnancy because the child has a life-threatening heart condition, but the surrogate refused and traveled to Texas to give birth, where the case stands now. And actors Will Poulter and Noah Centineo are here in studio talking about their new movie, Union County, a raw look at America's opioid crisis.
I think sometimes in TV and film and just broadly in our industry, the subject of addiction is often framed in the context of devastation and with an emphasis on negative things. And it's not that the film shies away from those realities, but the emphasis in this film is certainly on the success of the recovery program.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm Perry Russaman for Lindsay Davis. Thank you for streaming with us. We begin with the alarming reports about dangerous conditions on board an aircraft carrier. It is serving a record-long deployment in the Middle East. Growing concerns tonight about living conditions on the USS Abraham Lincoln has been deployed to the region for more than 250 days. There are about 5,000 sailors and Marines on board. Sources telling ABC News a sailor was rescued after going overboard earlier this week. The RAW reports some crew members are suffering from poor mental health, and families of some sailors say the ship is lacking basic supplies and has plumbing issues. Tonight, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is dismissing those reports, but the USS George Washington is being deployed from Japan to take its place. Martha Radis leads us off.
Tonight, growing concerns over conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln after a staggering 250 days at sea, including more than 200 consecutive days without a single port call. The majority of those days, combat operations in the Middle East. Some sailors' families reportedly told the Military Times that at least 2 sailors tried to jump overboard. A U.S. official telling ABC News a sailor on the Lincoln did go overboard earlier this month and was quickly recovered. The incident is under investigation. Tonight, Democratic lawmakers demanding answers from the Pentagon following alarming reports of poor conditions on the carrier, including extreme exhaustion, plummeting morale, and mounting mental health strains. Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton calling for an investigation. We spoke with him moments ago.
We're trying to get as many details as we can, but the bottom line is this should never happen.
Tonight, Secretary Pete Hegseth pushing back on reports sailors are struggling.
Completely misrepresented. Listen, we make sure that every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can provide them at every single moment.
Perry, the USS George Washington now on its way, slated to replace the Lincoln, although it's unclear tonight when that swap will take place. But after months of relentless combat operations, it can't come soon enough. Perry?
Martha Raditz, thank you. A state of emergency has been declared for the entire state of Indiana for widespread flooding. In Delaware County, the search is underway for a man who has been missing since Wednesday after he jumped into a river. More rain is on the way for the region tonight and tomorrow. Alex Perez is in Indiana.
Tonight, after days of howling straight-line winds, a foot of torrential rain, and multiple confirmed tornadoes, rivers are overtaking neighborhoods across parts of the Midwest, all of Indiana under a state of emergency. So many cities and towns around Indianapolis inundated. Christian Cole opening the door to his flooded apartment in Newcastle to this.
My car is completely done for. It ain't going nowhere.
This is what it looked like on Main Street in Cambridge City on Wednesday.
Overwhelming. Like you out of control.
James Aldrich tells me he arrived to find 2 feet of water inside his home. He lost nearly everything.
It's devastating, but everyone's okay, and I have wonderful neighbors, and it's a great community, and we'll get through it.
Rescue operations continuing around the clock. Night vision drone video showing firefighters checking homes in Connorsville, Indiana. And Perry, they are still dealing with standing floodwaters in many areas here, and this is not over just yet. There are flood watches through at least tomorrow in 8 states. Perry?
Alex Perez, thank you. A United Airlines flight from Chicago to Phoenix was forced to abort takeoff from O'Hare Airport after blowing 2 tires. Passengers had to deplane on the runway. Other pilots say they could see chunks of tires left behind. Will Reeve has the story.
Tonight, the terrifying emergency on takeoff at Chicago's busy O'Hare Airport.
455 is rejecting the takeoff. No assistance required at this time. Stand by for additional.
Definitely blew a tire.
A packed United 737 jet heading to Phoenix with 167 people on board, thundering down the runway at 115 miles per hour when it suddenly blew 2 main gear tires.
We saw lots of chunks of tire going down the runway.
The pilots slamming on the brakes, aborting takeoff, that jet screeching to a halt. Passengers forced to evacuate by stairs, right there on the runway. Buses transporting them back to the terminal.
Perry, fortunately, no one was injured. The FAA is investigating the incident. Perry.
All right, Will, thank you. A major development in the federal case against alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione after a 1.5 years of denials. Sources tell ABC News he is now expected to change his plea to guilty as early as tomorrow. Meanwhile, a state trial is just weeks away. Here's Matt Rivers.
Tonight, just weeks before his state murder trial, sources say accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione plans to plead guilty in federal court. Sources tell ABC News the dramatic announcement is set for tomorrow at a hearing in downtown Manhattan. Mangione faces 2 federal counts of stalking, resulting in the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down in Manhattan in 2024.
If he was ever going to have an argument about double jeopardy, this is the way to do it. Plead guilty in the federal case, make an argument in New York State where it's very protective against double jeopardy that he shouldn't be tried again.
Mangione also charged with second-degree murder in a state case, pleading not guilty. It's unclear how a federal plea might affect that state trial set to begin September 8th.
Perry, it's important to note that this guilty plea is not yet final. Mangione could still decide right up until the moment they enter the plea to change his mind. Perry?
Matt Rivers, thank you. Today, jurors in the trial of the mother accused of killing her 3 children heard testimony from 2 state police officers about forensic analysis of devices belonging to her and her ex-husband. They say Lindsay Clancy wrote notes on the devices with concerns about her parenting abilities, mental health issues, and the sleep deprivation she was dealing with. All days before the killings, they say her phone was used to search, quote, "Can you treat a sociopath?" Clancy's attorneys say she was suffering from postpartum psychosis at the time her children were killed. A baby born in Texas yesterday is at the center of a fierce legal battle involving abortion and surrogacy. The baby has a severe heart defect, and the intended parents, who live in California, had wanted the surrogate mother to have the abortion. She refused and traveled to Texas to give birth. ABC News legal contributor Shauna Lloyd joins us now. Always great to see you. So let's go back to spring with this story. It's when the parents learned about 20 weeks into the pregnancy that the baby had a life-threatening heart condition. The parents opted to terminate the pregnancy, but the surrogate refused. What does the law say about the situation?
So the interesting thing about this, Perry, is that this law is a civil law. It is a contract between the surrogate and the parents. The terms were detailed within the contract, and the surrogate agreed to those terms. So essentially, it's a violation of contract. They agreed to something, and she did not want to do it. Now, the hard thing about this is we have to remember that surrogacy is time limited, but contract courts and intervention when someone is breaching a contract can take a very long time to remedy. So that's why we're seeing this still going on, even though she is now recently given birth.
And we're dealing with multiple places here. So the surrogate mother, McKenna West, that's her name. She lives in Alaska. When the issue came up, she went to Texas, where abortion is banned. So we have 3 states involved: California, Alaska, Texas. What is the jurisdiction? Why is this important in this case?
Well, the jurisdiction is interesting, Perry, and part of it is because the contract was done in the original state. It was governed by California law. And in California, they recognize the parents as the persons that can make medical decisions for the growing embryo in the child. Now, she traveled to Texas because Texas is very unique. They recognize that the person giving birth, they recognize that person as the mother. They also ban abortions. So she went somewhere where she felt as though she would get the legitimate right to make medical decisions once the child was born. And she went to a state where she wanted to ensure that they couldn't enforce the abortion. So her choice of state was deliberate to ensure that she could protect the child, ensure it would be born, not aborted, and that she would have rights to make the medical decision. So that's what she was seeking. And that's why we see this case has spanned over so many cases, because we have to remember abortion is something that's determined by states. And so the state that you're in may have different rules versus where they actually contracted the surrogacy, which would have been governed by California law.
And Texas is getting involved. So this week, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton took some legal action. He announced that under the court order, life-saving medical care will be provided upon baby Gabriel's birth and will not be delayed. What that means for this specific condition, it is hypoplastic left heart syndrome, isn't necessarily obvious. What issues do you see here?
So the issue with this condition is typically when a child with this condition is born, they require immediate multiple complex surgeries. Now, the court had established that the parents get to make, the biological parents get to make the medical decision. So what the government essentially wanted to do, the state of Texas wanted to do, is ensure that these procedures would happen and that the parents couldn't elect to either move the child back to California once they were born, or that they couldn't make the choice not to treat. So what has happened is the state of Texas has stepped in because they have laws that allow them to override parental decisions when it comes to medicine in the interest of the newborn. And so essentially what the state of Texas has said is that on behalf of the newborn, they need these medical procedures and that they will have them regardless of what the parents or the surrogate want. And so that's the intervention that we see happen on behalf of this small child who has been appointed a guardian ad litem according to the rules in Texas. So that way they ensure that the child's rights are protected.
And then very quickly here, we are running out of time, but the lawyer for the parents told the New York Times as if the heartbreak of his condition were not enough, they are devastated to see their family tragedy transformed into political theater by the Texas Attorney General's office and McKenna West. So West is now seeking custody of the baby. Legally, does she have any argument here to claim custody?
No, she does not have legal rights to claim custody because the court has already recognized the biological parents as the parents of this child. So she is not going to have a very successful road to custody, even if she is seeking it.
All right. Shauna Lowood, thank you for your time. Always appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to see you, Barry.
Homeland Security agents are accused of conducting surveillance on people in Minnesota in the weeks after 2 U.S. citizens were shot and killed by federal agents there. According to a new court filing, undercover agents posing as protesters surveilled community meetings and recorded dozens of conversations. It also claims the federal government obtained financial records for labor unions and progressive organizations. The filing is connected to a case involving individuals who the DOJ claimed were directly tied to Antifa. The Trump administration has not yet commented. Authorities are investigating 2 incidents of vandalism at a World War II memorial. This is in Washington, D.C. Officials say somebody put bubble soap in the fountain there. You can see the video right here on your screen. In a second incident, another area was spray painted. The monument is closed as investigators are on the scene there investigating. A spokesperson for the Department of the Interior told ABC News the vandalism was, quote, an utter disgrace and would not be tolerated. All right, coming up, what the company behind flock cameras say they are doing in response to the controversy over their use. And opening statements are set to begin in the trial for the only person ever charged with the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. What you need to know. Today, the company behind the controversial license plate readers known as flock cameras announced it is overhauling its policy. It's addressing growing concerns about privacy violations and accusations of misuse by police. Jacqueline Lee has more.
Amid growing public backlash over privacy and police transparency related to automatic license plate readers, the CEO of Flock announcing big changes to its system in a video posted on its website.
These changes fall into 3 big areas: privacy, security, and accountability. Together, they mark a new chapter for Flock.
More than 120,000 flock cameras nationwide automatically scan every license plate that passes, logging the vehicle, time, and location into a database so officers can track vehicles. Critics call it a mass surveillance system with protests over privacy concerns. Several cameras were recently vandalized in cities across the country.
The camera was found just broken into pieces, sitting at the base of the pole that it was mounted to.
In a pre-recorded statement sent to ABC News, CEO Garrett Langley says Flock will change the default data retention period from 30 days to 7 days. And in the next few weeks, the company will roll out something called evidence mode, which will allow detectives to preserve data as evidence for an active investigation.
About 90% of investigative searches happen within 7 days. So will it solve less crime? It will. And I would encourage local officials to still make decisions that they think match their local needs. But as a business, we think 7 days is that new standard.
Langley also addressing concerns after some police officers allegedly misused the Flock system for personal reasons. Flock will now require all law enforcement to adopt audit assistance by the end of the year, including something called proactive lockouts, meaning when a user's activity is found to be abnormal, Flock will automatically suspend access pending administrator review. In response to these changes, the nonpartisan nonprofit Center for Democracy and Technology saying in a statement, quote, ultimately it is the same just trust us policy with a fresh coat of paint. Perry.
Jacqueline Lee, thank you. To get some more perspective on the flock camera controversy and some other security concerns we are watching, we turn to our weekly segment. It's called Assessing the Threat with former Homeland Security official and ABC News contributor John Cohen. John, thank you for joining us here. Always great to see you. So the concerns over flock cameras only seems to be growing. What do you make of this?
Well, you know, this is part of the challenge that law enforcement faces as they seek to leverage emerging technologies to protect communities from crime and violence. I mean, we're coming off of a 4-year period where we have witnessed significant drops in homicides, aggravated assaults, rapes, robberies, and in large part it's because law enforcement has been able to leverage technology like flock cameras in order to more rapidly solve crimes and locate suspects before they commit additional crimes. But here's the challenge. Flock is not just a license plate reader system. It's a license plate reader system that's empowered by artificial intelligence. It uploads an image of the vehicle, not just the license plate, but the vehicle up to a cloud that the 6,000 jurisdictions all have access to. So if you're driving down the road or driving in a parking lot in one city, the image of your vehicle can be downloaded and looked at by a police department across the country. And that has people from a privacy perspective concerned. So on the one hand, flock cameras have been incredibly helpful in helping law enforcement, resolve Amber Alerts, locate suspects to violent crimes, stopping mass shootings. But on the other hand, as pointed out in the report, there have been instances where law enforcement officers have misused this technology, in some cases even tracking former spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends to see where they were traveling and if they were meeting up with other people.
We also learned this week that the Department of Homeland Security will be spending some $20 million to give ICE agents high-tech gloves that deliver electric shocks to people they are trying to detain. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, from a timing perspective, it probably could have been, that information could have been released publicly at a different time point. I mean, the department is dealing with multiple reports or allegations regarding excessive use of force by ICE and CBP personnel. But that said, there's pros and cons. On the one hand, these shock gloves are a non-lethal capability that can help a correctional officer or a police officer or sheriff deputy or ICE agent gain control of a combative or non-cooperative suspect without having to use lethal force, without having to use more aggressive physical pain compliance techniques. On the flip side, there are concerns that ICE and CBP would be better able to address some of the concerns raised about their personnel using excessive force through better training and better tactical application as they pursue their immigration enforcement mission. So this is going to be an issue that's going to be widely debated, not just in the media, but amongst privacy, civil liberties, and advocacy groups, as well as law enforcement groups.
Definitely. John Cohen, thank you for your time. Always appreciate it. Coming up, the concern over contaminated jalapenos is forcing Whole Foods to expand the number of products it is pulling off its shelves. And in our prime focus tonight, as tensions rise in the West Bank between Israeli settlers and Palestinians, we take an in-depth look at the rise in violence sparked by ultra-nationalist groups. You're watching Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. The USS George Washington is heading to the Middle East to take the place of the USS Abraham Lincoln. A U.S. official says this was part of a long-planned rotation of ships, but it comes amid growing concerns about the well-being of crew members who have been on board the Lincoln for 250 days, including more than 200 consecutive days without a port call. Multiple reports have emerged of mental health and supply issues on board, and sources tell ABC News a sailor was rescued after going overboard earlier this month. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says reports about poor conditions are, quote, misrepresented. The Kennedy Center Board of Trustees voted for a second time to close the institution for 2 years of renovations, and once again voted to add President Trump's name back to the facade of the building. Democratic Congressman Joyce Beatty is a former member of the board. She confirmed the vote in a statement saying the font of the building would read, quote, the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts, restored and renovated by President Donald J. Trump. The vote by Trump's handpicked board comes nearly 3 months after a federal judge first blocked the moves. A jury has been selected in the trial for Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the only person ever charged with the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. The panel of 12 jurors and 4 alternates, comprised of 6 men and 10 women, will hear opening statements on Monday. Davis is accused of orchestrating the deadly drive-by shooting of Tupac. The former gang leader was arrested in 2023 for Shakur's murder and has pleaded not guilty. Whole Foods is recalling some prepared foods due to possible salmonella contamination. The grocery store chain is recalling some guacamole, salsas, and pico de gallo that contains jalapenos. All items have a best before date of August 16th, and Whole Foods says no illnesses have been reported. An ongoing outbreak related to jalapenos has sickened some 345 people nationwide. All right, coming up in our prime focus, foreign correspondent Britt Clennon explores the Israeli settler violence intensifying in the West Bank. And an important recall alert for you, nearly 30,000 pounds of raw beef has been flagged. All you need to know coming up. The West Bank is roughly the size of Delaware, home to 3 million Palestinians and more than 500,000 Israelis. Israel seized it from Jordan during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War and has since built dozens of illegal settlements on the occupied land the Palestinians want for their future state. In April, Israel approved 34 more illegal settlements, according to the Peace Now watchdog group. The settlement movement has provoked waves of deadly violence on both sides. And in the last few days, a group of Israeli settlers began an effort to force 2 Palestinian families from their homes in the West Bank town of Qusra. We'll talk to a family member in a moment about that incident, but first, our Britt Clennon reports from the West Bank on the violent ultra-nationalist settlers who have intensified their attacks on Palestinians in the last past 2 years with unspoken support from Israeli authorities.
I find this hard to believe. Very, very hard to believe.
Ragda Abu Siam is still in shock and in a world of pain.
This is me with him. Aww.
On February 18th, her 19-year-old son, Nasrallah, an American citizen, was with his friends who say they were trying to stop armed settlers from stealing their cattle. In this video, you can see the moment Nasrallah is shot down by Israeli settlers in an intense clash on the hillside near their home in Mukmas in the occupied West Bank.
He was trying to save his friend's life. They shoot him with no reason. He was not attacking them. They were attacking us and him. It's just hate, just hate.
Nasrallah is at least the 8th American citizen to be killed by Israeli settlers or soldiers since 2024, according to the human rights advocacy group Dawn. Nasrallah's father, Mohammed, takes us to where it happened. It's the first time he's been there since.
Over here?
Oh, here. كانوا يضربوا في الولد هان ما لحقش يوصل من هان لهان عندي الشيك هذا بقى يضربوا في الولد استشهد هان هيدا عموين هان استشهد هيدا عموين حبيبي
10 days later, the war with Iran began. When the West Bank is attacked, it's only the settlers who have somewhere safe to go.
That grey structure, that is a temporary shelter.
Yeah, it is. Israel just established this in the first day of war. Immediately they brought it and they put it here, but Palestinians have no rights to have it.
In the southern West Bank village of Al Khair, local journalist Eid Salamen Hadalin shows me where Israeli settlers have set up a new outpost a few hundred yards from where these Palestinians live.
Settlers took the advantage from this time where nobody thinking or looking to what happened in the occupied territories. They built more outposts in the West Bank. They attack Palestinians 24 hours a day. All these flags established just a few days ago to show the power.
During our interview, a drone appears above us. Moments later, a few settlers approach.
Let me tell you something about those Palestinians who you think allegedly got killed, all right? You come in here for overseas and say to us, to Israelis, on our land, that we are good?
Well, actually, this is Palestinian land, isn't it?
There's no such thing as Palestine, yes.
Since the outbreak of the Iran war, violence in the West Bank has become more frequent and more brutal. In the first month of this war, 20 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank. On this hill, an Israeli settler opened fire on a group of Palestinians, killing one of them.
According to the UN, Israeli settlers killed 6 Palestinians in March. That's nearly the same as all of last year. At the same time, Israeli settlers are also expanding their outposts, makeshift camps which are illegal even under Israeli law.
You see an outpost there. 1, 2.
Dror Edkis, an Israeli who tracks the expansion of settlements and outposts, shows us how these have multiplied since the war with Iran began.
Just think, you have 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank. So you want to push them farther and farther and to squeeze them and to squeeze them and to squeeze them. Where there are new settlers, where there are new outposts, there is a new wave of violence, always.
They come hand in hand.
Exactly, because once settlers are, for example, here in this hilltop, okay, last year, once they establish an outpost on this hilltop, so the whole area has become inaccessible, it becomes dangerous.
Has it ever been this bad?
No, it's never been such bad, no. This is beyond my worst nightmares.
This video shows the moment settlers attack a group of Israeli volunteers working with Palestinians in the village of Kuzra. In an attack from the same outpost 2 weeks later, 28-year-old Amir Oder was shot dead in a confrontation with settlers. His father was beaten in the head and stabbed in the leg several times.
في مستوطنين يعني المستوطنين مش واحد واثنين فوق ال 25 واحد قدامنا في الام 16 بكى ابني جنبي هان وقع
بكل ابني بقولوا موت موت. بعديها جا واحد مسكني، واحد كبير، أنا بقول له ابني ابني. بعديها فقدت الوعي.
As we're filming, we're told the settlers are coming back to the village.
We heard that there has been an attack at the same viewing point we were at, so we're going to go back up and see what has happened. There are about 5 Israeli settlers on that hillside. They're wearing masks. Some of them are carrying big wooden sticks, steel bars. They're trying to intimidate the Palestinians here.
Palestinians call the Israeli Defense Forces to tell them settlers are intimidating them on their land, adding the American media are present. About 40 minutes later, 5 IDF and police vehicles arrive. The Palestinians say it's an unusually large response. We spoke with border police officers to get some clarity about their presence.
They say that they're here to evacuate them from the place.
Okay, forever? They'll never be able to come back?
אז אתה אומר עכשיו עוד שעה אין פה כבר אנשים במאחז.
אנחנו שואפים, אנחנו לא יכולים למנוע את זה.
I just spoke to a man who lost his son in an attack. He was attacked here on his own land.
Do not cross the line.
What line? Where is the line? I don't see the line.
And 3 nights later in Qusra,
we're just a few hundred yards from where those soldiers spoke to us. We got a call in the middle of the night from locals here saying that their village had been attacked by settlers again. And look, I mean, dead chickens all over the ground here. Their coop set on fire. It's completely charred out. You can see this truck is still smoldering. I can smell burnt plastic and metal still. You know, the IDF had told us that they were cracking down on these kind of attacks, but clearly they keep happening.
in a statement to ABC News, the IDF says when receiving any report of a breach of law and order, IDF troops are deployed to the area and act to disperse confrontations and detain suspects. Regarding the incident in Qusra, the IDF states that forces acted to prevent further escalation and that 8 Israelis were apprehended by the Israel police. As for the killing of Nasrallah and Amir, the IDF says the cases are under investigation.
So no one has been punished for killing your son?
No one of them. No one of them. They're still free and they come to the village every single day, cause problems, and no one stopped them. Just because we are Palestinian. That's all.
Our thanks to Britt Clennett. The current source of tension involves 2 Palestinian families who have been under siege by Israeli settlers, cutting them off from food and aid since Sunday. Today, Israeli soldiers were deployed into the area to try and end the standoff with little success. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee has called the siege a horrific act of terror. One of those families is the brother and nephew of Palestinian-American Louis Reedy, who built the home in the West Bank enclave. He joins us now. Mr. Reedy, thank you for joining us here. So I understand that you spoke with your brother today. Can you describe what they are going through right now?
Well, I've been speaking with my brother all day today and all of the last 5, actually 6 days now. He's been under siege by the settlers since Sunday. Today, he's under siege by the settlers and the IDF. He's with his neighbors sitting in my home, and the IDF took over the neighbor's home, and they're not allowed to leave the house. They're not allowing anyone to provide them any food or supplies since Sunday.
So we're looking at the video here. It appears they're throwing something, could be rocks or something, toward the property. Do we know what they've been doing to the house?
Well, we've been dealing with the settlers for the 7-8 months ago. They came in the area early January, and since then there's a lot of events happening. They vandalize the house, they break in, they damage a lot of property around the house, and it's been ongoing. And Sunday, things getting escalated in a dangerous situation when they decided to build the tent in front of the house. creating a siege on my brother and his son and their neighbor. They take it to the extreme.
Do they feel that their lives are in danger?
Absolutely. It is a terrifying moment for my brother and his son. They were alone in the house. They could not sleep all night. They have to stay awake. The father has to stay up till 5 in the morning. He'll wake up his son so he can watch what's going on, so he can taking turns on sleep with no food. They cut off the electricity, the main line coming from the village. They cut off the main line, the main water line coming from the village. Now they do have water. It's a well water from last winter. It's unsafe to drink, but they are using it because that's the only option they have. Now, electricity, because they cut off the electricity multiple times, so they installed solar system. It works on battery, and it's an emergency backup. At the middle of the night, it turns off, and then they wait until the sunrise, and it charges again, and this is how they have electricity.
So we did hear from Ambassador Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, today. He has called this latest incident a horrific act of terror. What do you want to say to him or the State Department about what's going on right now to try and resolve the situation?
Well, saying it on the social media, they are terrorists, that's not enough. We need protection, and we need them to be removed permanently out of the residential area so we can have a safe and dignity to live in this house. Yesterday, the IDF left after this clash. It lasted a couple hours. I was watching it live from my security cameras. They left the scene, and the settlers stayed in the area. And then they came back again today, and they run away from them. And they come back. They run away, then they come back. And today, there are only 5 of them or 6. And still unable to remove 5 settlers. I mean, that's, I don't know what to say about that.
Louis Reedy, thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your family story with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we speak with actors Will Poulter and Noah Centineo about their new film. It's called Union County, and embedding with an addiction recovery community right there to give the film some realism. And how fast can one dad run the mile while pushing a stroller? Turns out, pretty fast. Stay with us. 30,000 pounds of beef is being recalled. We finally have a winning Powerball ticket, and a dad breaks a race record while pushing his daughter in a stroller. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in Colorado releasing this video to remind people not to leave their pets in hot cars. Animal control officers responding to the scene after a witness called about a dog locked inside a van. Officials say the dog was left for 4 hours and showed signs of heat distress. The windows were closed and doors locked with no airflow inside the vehicle. Officers had to break a window to rescue the animal. The dog was taken to a vet for treatment and later returned to its owner. Nearly 30,000 pounds of raw beef imported from South America have been recalled in Florida and Texas. The raw beef products enter the U.S. without undergoing a required inspection. The Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service says the products were produced between May 15th and May 20th and have use or freeze-by dates between September 15th and 20th. Today, a magnitude 3.8 earthquake shook the San Francisco Bay Area. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake hit at about 8:30 in the morning, 2 miles north of San Leandro. 2 aftershocks were also reported. The rapid transit system said riders experienced around 20-minute delays. Normal service later resumed. No injuries have been reported. One ticket to rule them all. One person matched all the Powerball numbers to win $1 billion. The winning ticket was sold at a convenience store in Quincy, Illinois, right outside of St. Louis. The store also wins, receiving $500,000 for selling the ticket.
Put on the warning track toward the net. The dugout, look out! Freddie takes a tumble.
A scare for Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman. He tried to catch a foul ball last night, but instead fell into the visitors' dugout. He confirmed today that he is sore, but overall okay. He kept playing the rest of the game, and the Dodgers won 4-2 over the Royals. A heartwarming scene in Cleveland. A father and his daughter set a new world record for the fastest stroller mile at the Guardian Mile race over the weekend, finishing in 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
Make sure it's nice and snug, and she's ready to go.
The proud dad beat the previous record by 9 seconds. He says he is looking forward to the day his now 1-year-old daughter Blake is running alongside him. In the face of addiction, how possible is recovery when your environment makes it even harder? The movie Union County gives us a raw look at the drug crisis, and it follows actors Will Poulter and Noah Centineo as they play foster brothers navigating a court-mandated drug rehab program in rural Ohio. The film shows their battle against their surroundings, and we also see true stories about real people working for another chance. We sat down the two actors. Let's take a look.
You just get out? A couple days ago. Yeah. Yeah. You look good, man. Yeah, me too. You're free as a bird now.
Will Poulter and Noah Centineo are joining us now here in studio. Thank you guys for being here. Always appreciate it.
Thanks,
It felt like I was watching a documentary in a way that I was watching people's lives versus watching the scenes of a movie. Did it feel like that on the acting side of this too?
Yeah, I think so in some respects. I mean, you know, I think that's thanks in large part to the approach that Adam Meeks, our writer-director, takes. You know, he has experience in the documentary field. And I think what he was trying to do was sort of blend some of that kind of documentary style with fictional elements, all while not kind of infringing on what is a real recovery community who we made this film with. And, you know, the strength of the movie and what you see is totally reliant on a collaboration between real people in this very successful and beautiful recovery program.
Even the lighting almost was documentary style in the beginning.
Well, interestingly enough, I think especially, you know, in the court scenes even, you know, every scene that you see in a court was the actual court proceedings. So every other person in the room, besides Will and I, were not actors. They were actually experiencing their court date. So when you say it feels like a documentary, it's kind of lit like a documentary. It was kind of approached from that perspective. So it is a very verite, realistic film.
You guys play foster brothers with very distinct personalities for somebody dealing with addiction. How did you find, you know, hone in on what you wanted to be as a personality? Was that in the script or did you work on that over time?
I think me and Noah were kind of uniquely placed as two actors playing brothers because we had this sort of pre-baked brotherhood by thanks of Warfare, which is a film we did with each other a year prior where we got incredibly close. And then we just had a really kind of collaborative experience with Adam. Like as a three, we spent a lot of time talking about the relationship, the dynamic between the two brothers. And we had the opportunity to come out to Ohio and the local area just less than a year in advance of shooting. And that was pivotal to, I think, understanding our own relationship and then also developing, you know, a really like great bond and a trusting relationship with the real members of the community.
One of my favorite things is action as a dialogue. So when words aren't said, but you're acting in terms of what somebody would be thinking. Where were you pulling different inspiration from, Noah?
Well, I mean, fortunately, Adam Meeks, the writer and director of the film, you know, comes from the area and has family members that live in Bellefontaine or Union County, Logan County, around the area. And he really embedded with the community and garnered a lot of trust with them. So when we got to go there 7 months before filming and then again 2 weeks before we ever set action, Adam set up some meetings with us and participants in the drug program. We got to go to AA meetings, NA meetings. We got to sit with some of the participants and really speak with them and ask them questions.
They were the supporting cast and some of the extras, just to mention that. I thought they were outstanding on camera. What did you think of just their ability just to perform like that?
Unbelievable. I mean, you know, the fact that the folks within the community were sort of courageous and generous enough to share in this way is amazing. It's a testament also to, I think, the success of the program and the way that, you know, recovery is being sort of platformed in this film. I think sometimes in TV and film and just broadly in our industry, the subject of addiction is often framed in the context of devastation and with an emphasis on negative things. And it's not that the film shies away from those realities, but the emphasis in this film is certainly on the success of the recovery program and critically the amazing work that's being done both by the service providers in this recovery community and the participants.
It seemed like the tone of the film was cautious optimism, cautious hope. What did you think the tone was?
No, I think that's right. I think there's this really subtle theme through it, as well as cautious optimism and radical accountability, which is trust. You know, there's a moment where Cody, the character that Will plays, is met at this really tense crossroads towards the end of the film, and he makes a decision, and that decision, to me, comes from a place of trust that one of the supporters, Annette, who's playing herself in the film, has to earn from the participants. Otherwise, the program, I don't think, works. So you need community bonds and you need trust.
I also want to mention that you are repping the area too with your Ohio State shirt.
Yes, sir.
This is a movie that's going to resonate with a lot of people. What do you hope people take away from this?
You know, something I took away from the whole experience is that there are solutions to these problems, and they do exist. There's 4,000 other programs like this one shown in Union County. You know, and the one in Union County has a 50% success rate, which is astronomical. And they do exist. And so if you are going through something, if you're in dark times, there are programs that exist. And I hope people can see that. You know, maybe this movie could be a bit of a roadmap. You know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the alternatives that are more kind of punitive and criminalizing don't have the same success rate. You know, this one achieves a success rate of over 50%. And when that's compared to alternative approaches that aren't as humanizing, that don't do so much to look past the stigma and offer the kind of holistic wraparound care that this program does, you don't get the same results. And so this is really worthy of support. We should also mention that unioncounty.oscilloscope.net has a series of resources that people can go and check out. So if they're looking to support these kind of recovery efforts and some of the partner programs, they can find information there.
Will and Noah, thank you guys for being here, and you guys can watch Union County in theaters tomorrow. That's our show for this hour. I'm Perry Russum. Stay with ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.